Good Monday morning, and thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. New video this morning showing Palestinian prisoners returning home as part of the ceasefire deal between the Hamas terrorist group and Israel. Israel released 250 Palestinians serving long terms in Israeli prisons and 1,700 others detained in Gaza during the war after the release of the 20 living Israeli hostages. Now here's video of those 20 hostages getting back to Israel after more than 2 years in captivity. The Israeli military said it had received all hostages confirmed to be alive after their transfer from Gaza by the Red Cross. Now, the first phase of President Trump's peace plan is underway. Cheers filling the so-called hostage square as the news that the hostages had crossed out of Gaza, and the world waits to see if the fragile ceasefire will hold. President Trump in Israel to speak before that country's governing body before heading to Egypt and the peace summit. NBC's Alice Barr has details from Washington.
Hi there. President Trump addressing Israel's legislature, the Knesset, this morning to a standing ovation with signs across Israel thanking him for his role in bringing the hostages home and bringing an end to the fighting in Gaza, at least for now. This morning, the first images of Israeli hostages held for 2 years in darkness and deprivation in Gaza, finally back in the light, transferred by the Red Cross to be reunited with their waiting families. In Tel Aviv's Hostage Square, Israelis cheering the moment they have prayed and protested for and chanting, "Thank you, Trump," as President Trump addressed the Knesset, Israel's legislature, celebrating the peace deal he brokered.
Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change.
He earlier declared the war is over, in contrast to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warning the military campaign is not over. Israel and Hamas have so far agreed to phase 1, the exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners while the fighting pauses. Israeli forces pull back to new lines within Gaza and desperately needed aid flows in. But thornier questions remain about Hamas disarming and leaving power and how to govern and rebuild Gaza as Palestinians flood back to whatever remains of their homes. For now, though, an emotional release and rejoicing. This hostage family seeing their loved one first by phone as President Trump met with some hostage families before a peace ceremony in Egypt, marking a major diplomatic achievement and long-sought relief after 2 years of devastating war. Some 200 heads of state joining today's peace summit in Egypt, including Arab leaders critical to the negotiations and to helping rebuild. President Trump again promoting his proposal for an international board of peace that would oversee reconstruction in Gaza. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
A look from Capitol Hill this morning, where we are entering day 13 of a government shutdown. That's bad news for many Minnesotans getting ready to head out to MAA weekend in just a few days. Audrey Russo's at MSP Airport with more on these growing concerns.
Yeah, right now things at the TSA line behind me are not too bad. They're moving pretty smoothly, but MSP officials tell me that the busiest rush of travel they expect to see is on Wednesday, and that is because MEA weekend starts on Thursday. But today, local lawmakers and teachers are actually going to be here at the airport calling on the feds to end the shutdown, voicing their frustration over how some of these travel impacts and delays could impact families. We're just trying to have a fun weekend, right? So I took a look at FlightAware and I can see that there are 11 delays scheduled for MSP today and 1 cancellation. And that very same delay tracker is also showing more than 400 delays anticipated nationwide as air traffic controllers approach their 3rd week of not getting paid. The Democratic lawmakers speaking here today also plan to criticize the Trump administration's cuts to federal government programs. And in the last 24 hours, President Trump championed those same cuts and blamed Democrats for the shutdown.
So we're ending some programs that we don't want. They happen to be Democrat-sponsored programs, but we're ending some programs that we never wanted, and we're probably not going to allow them to come back.
And back out here live in the airport, MSP officials told me that they wanted to take the weekend to kind of crunch some numbers and see exactly how many people were expected to travel through the airport during the week. And they say that they could release some updated guidance on travel as soon as today. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. The vast impacts of the shutdown continue to be felt across the country this morning. At the CDC, hundreds of federal workers fired just a few days ago got word that they had been reinstated. According to the American Federation of Government Employees, 1,300 CDC workers were let go on Friday, but then 700 of them were reinstated a day later. According to an official with the Department of Health and Human Services, a coding error caused the original mistake. Happening right now, a strong storm along the East Coast is moving north, bringing damaging winds and flooding. This is the video of the impact in Norfolk, Virginia. Authorities say the storm is also affecting travel at airports all along the East Coast. This morning, authorities say a wildfire burning at a state park in northern Minnesota is now 50% contained. Crews have been battling the fire for the past 4 days in the George Crosby Manitou State Park near the North Shore. Authorities say the fire has now burned 300 acres. They believed it was caused by a lightning strike. Today, communities across the country are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. And here in the Metro, the Minneapolis Fire Department is marking the day by honoring its first all-native fire crew. Engine 10, based out of Fire Station 6 by the Convention Center, is made up of Captain Michael Graves, fire motor operator Jesse Strong, and firefighters Johnny Crow and Bobby Hedberg. The four-person crew represents members of the Oglala Lakota and different bands of Ojibwe. They say they jumped at the chance to serve together on an all-Indigenous crew and hope to give back to the city and community that they call home.
But for me, I'm thinking of the future and the next generation. And to me, it's a day to show a lot of pride and progress that we've made. And I think being part of Engine 10, an all-Indigenous crew, shows that progress here in the city. I've been to other cities and they're not other crews like us, and there's not other Native men like myself in those positions, same position. So to be part of this is a really big deal, especially for our community here.
Now, Crow says he hopes people understand no matter what your background is, there are opportunities to succeed and give back. Right now, the Minnesota BCA is ordering the immediate inspection of DWI testing equipment across the state. The agency says they're investigating the tech after discovering several different errors. The BCA says each one of the specific breathalyzer tests hold a uniquely numbered dry gas cylinder, which serves as the control during every test. But they discovered in hundreds of cases across Minnesota, incorrect cylinder information had been entered into the breathalyzer, which could have made the results inaccurate. So in response, the BCA says it will now require law enforcement agencies across the state to immediately review and verify data has been entered correctly into the breathalyzer instruments. Moving forward, all gas cylinder replacements and maintenance will be conducted solely by BCA personnel. Right now, crews are on the scene of a house explosion in northern Minnesota. That explosion happened just after 6:30 last night, about an hour northwest of Duluth in Hibbing, right next to the high school. Fire crews say they found the home up in flames. This is new video you're seeing from that scene. Officials say the fire spread to a nearby home. Crews were able to get the fire under control within 3 hours. We know one person was sent to the hospital. It's not clear what their condition is at this time. Well, take a look at this. Over the weekend, some local seniors served up breakfast for a good cause. Members of the Village Shores Senior Living Community in Richfield hosted a flapjack fundraiser for Annunciation Catholic School. Organizers tell us they served around 270 people and raised nearly $4,000 for the school.
We have people in their 90s who went to grade school at Annunciation.
Or people got married there.
Yeah, this might be Richfield, but South Minneapolis and Annunciation are just down the road, and our hearts are still there with those people.
Now, residents and staff also hung dozens of ribbons on the balconies of each apartment to show support for Annunciation. In this morning's Communities at Care, we're highlighting several organizations in the Metro doing some amazing work, and I had the privilege of being part of their events. Last Thursday, I emceed Breakthrough Twin Cities' 20th annual Booyah Bash. It's an organization that prepares under-resourced students for college. So along with my amazing co-host, Amira, that you see right there, she's a student in the program. We helped to raise thousands of dollars to help these future leaders on their journey. And then that was from Friday. I was honored to be an invited speaker at Quorum Twin Cities National Coming Out Day Luncheon. It's the largest in the country, by the way. I got a chance to share my coming out story and hear so many others. This year's theme, Many Journeys, One Minnesota. What matters is that each person feels safe, supported, and loved, whether they're shouting their truth from the rooftops or still whispering it to themselves. National Coming Out Day isn't about pressure, it's about possibility. It's about creating a world where people can come out when they're ready and know that they'll be met with open arms when they do. And then finally, on Saturday, I hosted Second Harvest Heartland's annual Dish Gala. We helped raise more than $1.3 million for hunger relief. It was an amazing star-studded night, which included Wolves head coach Chris Finch, who's on the board of directors for Second Harvest and is a big supporter of that cause. Such amazing organizations right here in the Metro. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.